Hello and welcome to the Mindbender Matrix channel, a fairly new channel in which I try to use the platform and media available to me to expose certain truths to the collective masses. Through the use of symbolism, numbers, words, phrases, anagrams, and all sorts of other trick knowledge. Certain groups of people have been able to use these tools to graft and sway public opinion. With the recent events of the Nipsey Hussle shooting on live TV, so to speak, or allegedly, it got me looking under a few dresses, see what I could find. And the results, might I say, are a little shocking, a little stunning, but did we expect anything else? We've been hearing this information for years. And when you do the research on it, not only is your own mind and collective consciousness awoken, but you are then able to see how certain events have taken place and used, once again, like I said, to sway popular thought and consciousness. It's probably the real reason why most of us are dumbfounded by events as such that would happen right in front of our eyes. But might I remind you that these events have been going on for a long time. And like I said, once you break them down, you start to see that all of these people that are reporting this, they can't be wrong. Starting with who I'd like to call the first industry plant. The guy who I believe used the gang mentality of the West Coast and personal business skills, along with government help. Now, which alphabet boys use this patsy or this pawn here that we see in front of us, named Michael Harry-O Harris? Maybe he'll take that information to the grave with him, or maybe he won't. But what I do know is that he's an industry plant, and that a lot of these events that have taken place, the linchpin was pulled a long time ago. Now, certain things are undeniable, like, for instance, this man's prison number. You know, why is it when the elites use symbolism, they're always using 6s and 9s and 3s? And if you can't get to it that way, you can add, you can use your timetable arithmetic within numerology to gain understanding of what's going on here just by using your common sense alone. So, for instance, this 9-7 right here, 9 plus 7, okay, 16, okay. So, do the math on that. Add another 9, you get 25. Add another 3, and you get 28. Don't say 10, motherfucker. But with the number 28 is strange as a prison number because allegedly Michael Harris was given 28 years in prison. Now, how rare is it that your prison number would match up with the amount of years that you received under a federal sentence? Not only for drug trafficking, but also for the alleged or attempted murder of an ex-business partner. I mean, you see, there's just certain things that don't make sense. And no matter how much you try to add them up, Still don't make sense. So instead of bringing forth any kind of conspiracy theories or to sway your mind in a way to make you think I'm piecing things together to make you believe in something that you don't believe, well, let's just look at the evidence. And by the end of this video, collectively, maybe we can make a decision on what's going on here in the entertainment business and why they are using the format of hip-hop to push forward many agenda. You wonder how all this ties into Nipsey Hussle. Well, I'm going to start off by saying I believe that Nipsey Hussle is a character set up by elite agencies, played by several actors, and he was sent forth to push forward an agenda. Or on the latter side, a government agent himself playing a role. Either way, there's some sort of sham or scam going on here, and anybody with eyes can plainly see that. You'd have to be blind and a fool not to see that there's some sort of agenda here. And that agenda was started by one Harry O. So let me get into this shit right here. Let's dig into the oatmeal and stop all the rigmarole. So this guy Harry O, right? Allegedly, he was arrested in 1987 for drug trafficking and the alleged attempted murder of one of his business partners, like I stated earlier. Now, everybody knows that once arrested by the federal government and put in prison, that you can't operate business at all. The government won't allow you to. And any business or money that you generate, they will strip from you. And this guy has plenty of phone conversations. Speaking on his allegiance to other business entities and people. Now, the real question is Harry O a real person? Because his information online and on Google is obscure at the best. Gives you choppy information. Seems like information that he wanted put out there, not information that's even close to true. We know this gentleman right here is nefarious. Harry O was one of the first African American men to produce a Broadway play, as you see here on the screen, back in 1985. Now, Broadway in New York is a very prestigious place to throw open plays and to showcase your talent. But it's very expensive to have a play on Broadway. Not to mention that the Broadway play was called CHECKMATE. And as you can see on this picture right here, the four actors that are portrayed in this particular play are in squares, similar to a chessboard. This play allegedly launched the career of Denzel Washington. When you understand the long history ties of the name Washington, well, that's a whole nother rabbit hole that, I'll save for another video. I'm not necessarily prepared to go down that tunnel right now, but You know how good of an actor Denzel is, right? And the only movie that he's ever won any awards for is Training Day, which allegedly had the puppet master Dr. Dre in. Well, Dr. Dre is the producer that Harry O was seeking to produce an album for his wife, Lydia Harris, whom allegedly he married while in prison, and the judge that presided over his marriage was the same judge that gave him the 28-year conviction. Okay? Now, does that sound fishy? I mean, you got to look into your conscience, look in your third eye, look in your mind, close your eyes and listen to this information and see that it doesn't bother your collective consciousness. Now, Harry O was a part of an elaborate scheme, I believe, to use hip hop, especially gangster rap, to not only sway public opinion, but to fill the industrial prison complex with plenty of 13th Amendment slaves. Yeah, I said it. And he used the architect, Dr. Dre, and the film producer, O'Shea Jackson, to move these things in motion. Okay? In which the Harris family, or the Harris lineage, I should say, includes a few different other culprits within the hip-hop spectrum, such as T.I. Clifford Harris, who allegedly recently just showed up on Capitol Hill to speak on behalf of Nipsey Hussle. Okay? Now, this Lydia Harris, right? She allegedly used to work for, she went to college with Jay Prince of Rap-A-Lot Records, in which Harry O also made claims to giving Jay Prince the startup money to start Rap-A-Lot Records. Jay Prince denies this, but we all know that Rap-A-Lot Records was under federal indictment for 10 years during the 90s. Okay? 10 years. Don't say 10, motherfucker. Now, these guys have way too much government involvement for me to not believe that somebody didn't fold and become a part of their elaborate schemes if they weren't set up to be an elaborate scheme in the first place. You know, you never can really tell who's operating the chess pieces. But what you do know is that there's a genesis to all this. And the rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, I got receipts. So, let's check out this masonry. A sonic checkerboard is one of the most important symbols to the Illuminati, for it is used in ritualistic ceremonies. This is used because black and white is a symbol for duality, or the base of consciousness. Base consciousness is important because it is where all other states of mind arise. Now, duality, right? Or patterns, such as checkerboards, stripes, or zebras, are also commonly used as triggers for mind control slaves in order to reach specific altars. Okay. Now here's a depiction of the altar right here. It's You see all that symbolism. A giant checkerboard right here. Let's look at some of these stars like Amy Winehouse, who we know she was sacrificed with a checker dress on. Here, you have Angelina Jolie, you have Beyonce, some checker shit in the background. Well, the list goes on and on and on and on. The list goes on and on. Look at all these checkerboards. Now, come on now, use your common sense. Why do they continuously use this symbolism if it doesn't mean anything? Who are they speaking to, and why are they speaking to them through this sort of coding? You know, when you even look up Freemasonry, once upon a time, they didn't even really have black members nor allow them. Kardashians right here with the three of them holding this 666 up. Okay? But the first known black Freemason in modern times was Prince Hall. Any connections there? Jay Prince? Prince the artist? And it's funny that we mentioned Prince the artist because we all know he was killed in a strange fashion. I mean, let's just be honest here. Riding a bike around, you're a millionaire, you're an icon, looking for prescription drugs. It's because you were second to the king of pop. And although way more talented with live instrumentation and songwriting than Michael Jackson, he was still allegedly always the runner-up to the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Now look at this Michael Jackson album cover right here. After he was screaming that Sony was devils and, you know, making allegations that someone was trying to kill him. Now, even if we wanted to believe Mike that he was killed or something sinister happened to him, what is Mike doing on an album cover entitled Blood on the Dance Floor in an all-red suit, stomping over New York City like 9/11 and shit just happened in the background? On a goddamn checkerboard. Okay, so I'm stupid then. And so is everybody else. We see these things happening, right? But we're all stupid. Here's Nicki Minaj. Star is Born, checkerboard. There's no doubt Gwen Stefani, and we know her ties to Dr. Dre. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Here's Whitney Houston on the checkerboard. Here's Willow Smith. And here's Wiz Khalifa. And now, here is a picture with Mayor Tom Bradley and Harry O. You notice when you look online, every picture you see of Harry O, he has on this red bow tie, assuming allegiance. One can only speculate that he is here with this red bow tie on, and in every other picture on Google with some sort of allegiance. Okay? And the story goes that him and Mayor Tom Bradley were working together to buy the famous Arco building downtown Los Angeles, which is a 100-foot skyscraper and shit, for $10 million. Don't say 10, motherfucker. And he had allegedly went to all of the kingpin drug dealers on the street in Los Angeles and told them, let's piece together and buy this building so that we can go legit. Now, where have you heard that story before? One Ermias Ashkidam spoke of how he purchased the Marathon clothing store within exactly the same terminology and framing. Okay? Now, Harry O was known as the biggest cocaine dealer in Los Angeles, but might I add, this only came into our collective conscience within the last decade or so. We always thought that the man was Freeway Ricky Ross, in which his name was assimilated and usurped by another one of these rappers, who even has a song called Freemasonry on his album Teflon Don, in which Harry O entitled the startup label that he wanted to put together so that he could release his wife Lydia Harris' R&B album, Godfather Entertainment. Now, I ask you to ask yourself, who is the godfather of hip-hop? Well, most people would allege that the godfather of hip-hop is Eazy-E. And so, Eazy-E, also known as Eric Wright, allegedly, as the story is told to us through the eyes of one O'Shea Jackson and one Andre Young, that Eazy-E was approached by Dr. Dre after continuously going to jail to help fund what he thought would be the future of hip-hop, which was a new form of it titled gangster rap. There's an old story that back in 1992, there was a meeting and all of the record execs in Los Angeles were invited to this meeting. And they were told not to speak on any of the information in that meeting, or they would be held responsible. Well, the letter contained some information in it that stated that they wanted to push gangster rap to the front of hip hop, and all the positive music they wanted to scale back on, because they have been planning on building a whole lot of new prisons here in America, and they wanted to use the poetry and rhetoric of gangster rap in order to encapsulate the minds of millions and send them to jail, where they would most of the time rot and die, especially with elongated sentences and certain things like that. You got to understand the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment distinctively speaks on involuntary servitude and any other form of underpaid or unpaid services here in this country illegal unless you were arrested and became a prisoner. A prisoner made you a slave of the state and gave you no rights, not even any to vote, which was my earlier discussion on T.I. Why was he on Capitol Hill when his voice doesn't make a difference? He's basically a dead citizen. Allegedly, a man who was caught with guns several times, did no real time ever, based on 3 strikes virtually. Okay, you can't make this kind of thing up. And then Ice Cube, later on in his career, Well, as Eric allegedly passed away from HIV/AIDS, simultaneously came out with an album called Lethal Injection.